All right, so get this. We're diving deep into Earth 2 today. Yeah, imagine owning a piece of, like, Times Square.
Like, wow.
But virtually.
Virtually.
That's the whole idea behind Earth 2, this platform that lets you buy and sell digital land.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's tied to real-world locations. So we've got a podcast script and a wiki to kind of guide us through this whole thing.
Roughly.
Figure out, is it a metaverse gold mine or is it digital fool's gold?
I like that.
Yeah, by the end, you'll have all the info you need to decide if Earth 2 is something you want to invest in or just a really cool concept to watch.
I mean, it is a cool concept just thinking about this geolocational metaverse.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
It is. It sounds very jargony.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, think about Pokemon Go, but instead of catching Pokemon, you're buying and selling virtual land.
Okay, so less Pokemon, more property.
Exactly. Earth 2 in a nutshell.
Got it. So I'm getting the Pokemon Go vibes, but like, how does it actually work? What am I buying here?
So Earth 2 is like a digital twin of Earth.
Okay.
It's a one-to-one replica.
Oh, wow.
And it's all divided up into these virtual plots of land called tiles.
So like digital real estate.
Exactly. Each tile is about 20 meters by 20 meters.
That's a decent chunk.
Yeah. So like imagine owning a piece of your neighborhood, but digitally.
I actually looked up my street on Earth 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and someone already owns my house.
Oh, no.
I know it's a little creepy, but also makes you think, like, could these virtual spaces actually be valuable?
Yeah, well over 100 million of these tiles have already been sold.
Wow.
So there's definitely interest.
A lot of digital land barons out there.
Yeah. So you have to wonder what's driving all this. Is it just bragging rights? Or is there more to it?
Yeah, it can't just be about showing off, right?
Well, this is where Earth 2 gets really interesting.
Okay.
It's not just some static map. They're actually building this fully interactive 3D world they call E2V1.
Hold on, so we're talking more than just looking at a map on a screen. We're actually going to be able to, like, experience these virtual spaces.
Exactly. They're promising like a totally immersive experience, no loading screens, enhanced graphics.
Okay.
Think like stepping into a video game.
Okay.
But instead of, some made-up landscape, you're exploring real-world locations, but virtually.
So what's the big deal with enhanced graphics? Does that mean my virtual backyard will finally have like that nice landscaping I've been putting off in real life?
Well, maybe not specifically that, but think about the possibility.
Okay.
Enhanced graphics just make things more realistic and engaging.
Sure.
Imagine like walking through a virtual Times Square.
Okay, yeah.
Interacting with other users, maybe setting up a virtual shop or business.
Okay, so virtual businesses, that means there has to be a way to make money in this digital world, right?
That's where E-Ther comes in.
E-Ther.
It's an in-game resource that you can generate just by owning land.
Oh, interesting. So like a digital commodity.
Exactly.
But what makes E-Ther valuable? Can I actually trade it for real money?
So this is where things get a little more complicated.
Okay.
E-Ther can be converted to their cryptocurrency called Essence.
Essence.
Yeah, like any cryptocurrency, its value can go up and down, which means there's potential to earn real-world money from your virtual holding.
Oh, wow. So you're not just a virtual landlord, you're a digital entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Mining resources, maybe setting up shop. It's like SimCity, but with actual stakes.
That's a great analogy.
Right?
And just like in SimCity, there are different types of virtual land with different values.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Class 1 tiles, those are the most sought after.
Yeah.
Because they represent prime real estate, like landmarks, city centers, places that are important in the real world.
So like a virtual plot in Times Square is going to be worth way more than, say, a patch of digital desert.
Exactly. The value of your virtual land is tied to its real world counterpart.
That's really interesting.
It creates this kind of unique dynamic.
It does. But with all this talk about digital land and cryptocurrencies, isn't there some risk involved? Could this whole thing just be a passing fad?
Is a question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
And to be honest, there are some valid concerns about how sustainable platforms like Earth 2 really are in the long run.
So before I go and mortgage my house to buy virtual Times Square, are there some downsides I should be aware of?
Absolutely, and that's what we'll dive into next.
All right, so we've talked about the shiny side of Earth 2,
right?
Virtual land, 3D worlds, maybe even making some digital cash. But you mentioned there are some downsides.
Yeah.
What could go wrong here?
Well, I think the biggest worry for a lot of people is the same one that comes up with a lot of these metaverse projects.
Okay.
Is this thing actually going to last?
Yeah.
Like, is it sustainable in the long run?
Right, because we've seen a lot of digital trends come and go. What's to say that Earth 2 won't just fizzle out?
Exactly. It's still a pretty new platform.
Yeah.
And the metaverse in general is still in its early stages. So there's really no guarantee that Earth 2 will be around in 5, 10, even 20 years.
And what about the value of these virtual properties? It seems like a lot of it is based on speculation and hype. Is there anything in the real world we can compare it to?
Well, it's definitely worth thinking about the real estate market.
Okay.
Remember the housing bubble back in 2008?
Oh, yeah.
Well, some experts are worried that a similar bubble could form in the virtual world.
So we're talking about like a potential metaverse crash. What could set that off?
I mean, a lot of things could contribute: loss of interest, a big security breach, even new regulations could all affect the value of that virtual land.
Uh-huh.
And then there's price volatility.
Right.
And we've seen how much the value of cryptocurrencies can swing up and down.
Yeah.
And that same volatility applies to Essence, which is Earth 2's currency.
I remember Bitcoin's roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
So you're saying investing in Earth 2 isn't exactly a safe bet?
It's definitely something to approach with caution.
Yeah.
You have to understand that there's potential for both big wins and big losses.
Okay. So potential bubbles, price swings, and a big question mark over whether it'll even be around in a few years. That's a lot to consider. But taking a step back, how does Earth 2 fit into the bigger picture of the metaverse?
Okay.
Is this just a unique thing, or are there other projects out there that are similar?
I think Earth 2 is definitely part of a bigger trend.
Okay.
This idea of digital ownership is becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
Think about NFTs, or virtual fashion in-game items.
Mm-hmm.
People are spending real money on digital stuff across all sorts of platforms.
And that brings up a whole other bunch of questions, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does it even mean to own something in the digital world? It's not like you can physically hold it or build a fence around it.
That's a great point. This whole idea of ownership in the digital space is still being figured out.
Yeah.
Is it about control? Is it about exclusivity?
Yeah.
Is it about the ability to make money from it? These are all questions that are being debated right now.
And what about scarcity?
Okay.
In the real world, land is a limited resource.
Right.
That's part of what makes it so valuable. But in the digital world, can anything really be scarce? Couldn't the people who made Earth 2 just decide to create more land whenever they want?
That's a really important question about virtual scarcity.
Yeah.
Earth 2 tries to copy real-world scarcity by limiting the number of tiles that are available.
Okay.
You're right. At the end of the day, it's all digital,
Yeah.
and the rules could change.
So we've got potential downsides like market crashes and the question of whether it's going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to figure out these basic ideas of digital ownership and scarcity. So why are people still so drawn to Earth 2?
That is the million-dollar question.
It is. Give me some reasons why this whole digital land grab might actually be worth it.
Well, first of all, there's the excitement of being an early adopter.
Okay.
People love the idea of getting in on the ground floor of something that could be huge.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that drove the early internet boom.
Right, like buying Apple stock back when they were still working out of a garage.
Exactly. There's the potential for huge profits if Earth 2 really takes off.
So there's that speculative side of it. But aside from the money, are there other reasons why someone might be interested in Earth 2?
Oh, for sure.
It can't all be about becoming a digital tycoon, right?
Definitely not. For some people, it's about the creative possibilities.
Okay.
Imagine designing and building your dream home,
Yeah.
creating a virtual art gallery, maybe even building a whole city from scratch.
Wow.
The potential for creative expression is huge.
Yeah, I can see how that would be appealing. It's like having a blank canvas, but in a digital world where you can do pretty much anything you can imagine.
Exactly. And let's not forget the social aspect.
Okay.
Earth 2 is about connecting with people from all over the world who are into the same things. It's about building communities and experiencing new things together.
So it's not just about owning digital land, it's about the things you can do and the people you can meet in those virtual spaces.
Right.
It sounds like Earth 2 is tapping into something deeper than just wanting to make money. It's about how our relationship with technology is changing and how we think about community in a virtual world.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it's something we need to think about as these virtual worlds get more and more advanced and become more part of our lives.
Yeah.
What does it mean for our sense of place, our relationships, even our identities?
I mean, it is mind-blowing to think that we could be like right on the edge of this whole new era of digital interaction.
Yeah.
But it is a little intimidating too. Like,
Yeah.
how do we even begin to wrap our heads around all of this?
It is a lot to take in.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone from digital maps to 3D worlds, talked about virtual economies, and we've even touched on some pretty big questions about digital ownership and the future of community. It's a lot.
It really is. So for someone listening to all this, maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, what's the main takeaway? What do they really need to understand about Earth 2 and how it sits into the metaverse?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that Earth 2, whether it ends up being successful or not, is really just a small example of the much bigger changes that are happening in the digital world.
Okay.
It's kind of like a preview of a future where the lines between the physical world and the virtual world become more and more blurry.
So even if someone isn't interested in buying virtual land or jumping headfirst into the metaverse, they should still pay attention to what's going on with Earth 2.
Oh, absolutely, because the questions it raises about digital ownership, virtual economies, and the future of community are going to affect all of us.
Yeah.
Whether we actually participate in platforms like Earth 2 or not.
So it's like Earth 2 is this case study in how our relationship with technology is changing, and the effects of that change are going to be huge.
Exactly. And it's not just about technology either.
Right.
Think about the potential impact on things like real-world economics, social structures, even our understanding of identity in place. Those are all big, complicated issues that we need to start thinking about now.
So what's your take? Is Earth 2 a metaverse marvel or a digital dud?
Honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer to that.
Yeah.
It's too soon to say for sure what the long-term effects of Earth 2 will be. But what I find really interesting is that it makes us confront these fundamental questions about our digital future.
And whether you're excited, skeptical, or somewhere in between, you can't deny that Earth 2 is a pretty fascinating thing that's worth keeping an eye on.
For sure. And regardless of whether you decide to buy virtual land, build a digital empire, or just watch from the sidelines, one thing is clear. The metaverse is here to stay, and it's going to change the world as we know it.
That's a pretty profound thought to leave our listeners with. So to everyone tuning in, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of Earth 2, what it could be, and how it fits into the bigger picture of the metaverse. And remember, even if you're not running out to buy a piece of virtual Times Square, keep thinking about those questions about digital ownership community and how we're going to interact with the world, both real and virtual. Until next time, stay curious.